Hello, this is John Speelman with the audio version of this week's column. It's not now an Agony column, it's just a general column with elements of Agony, and sometimes we will go back to the old format of Agony and Ecstasy. A fortnight ago, well actually it was 3 weeks because the column's supposed to come out on Sundays, and last Sunday was May the 31st, so I've waited for a week. I did Reginacide, the sacrificing of the Queen, and that was part one, and this is part two. And I'm going to start actually with involuntary reginacides, i.e. losing my queen, and one of the silliest blitz games I've ever played. It's a game so silly that I really don't find it hard to tell the story against myself. It was in the arena for a blitz tournament for my Bundesliga club in the top non-Bundesliga division, Munich 1836, and we have a monthly blitz tournament on a Monday. I'm not sure which Monday of the month, and of course it's gone online now. So I played in this arena. The first time I played really rather awfully. This time I played much better. I started with I think 9.5 out of 10. Then I lost to Amin Tabatabai, and I had a little slump at one point and finished up, I don't know, somewhere in the top 10 anyway. I'm just going to check now, so you're going to see a silly screen for a second that I am recording, because otherwise it is going to be, yes I am. So I'm sorry about the recursion, because it's recording, it's filming itself, but I thought I'd better do so, otherwise that would be silly. And now let's start with this game. It's a blitz game against a guy called Bileski, who I think, yeah, he's 2350 or something, and it was in the middle of my slump. Was it in... trying to think which one. There was one of these where I think it was this one, where I was playing well, then I got tired, so I tried some chocolate. And it certainly didn't work quickly enough, because first I allowed a bat rank mate in a ridiculous game, the first one, and then I lost this game, and then I lost to Gawain Jones, a reasonable game. Gawain won the tournament. And then I recovered. I drew with Gawain later, and I drew with Magsudlu, Para Magsudlu, and won a couple of games, so it wasn't too bad. Anyway, this is a blitz game. You're supposed to go knight f6 here, really, because then after d4 takes, you can play d5. That's, and you get some sort of reasonably harmless, what's it called? It is called a Botvinnik Panov attack against the Karo Khan, isn't it? Okay, this position. So here knight f6 would be a bit dubious because of bishop d2 threatening f4. So he actually goes there. So black's lost 2 tempi with his bishop, I suppose, but he has got rid of a pair of minor pieces, which is quite a good thing. Okay, it's a blitz game, we're just playing the moves. Not sure queen d2 is a great move, maybe I should have gone h3. I mean, he can go takes, and if he takes rook e8, bishop d3, and I don't like them playing rook takes e3 in positions like this very much. But if they don't, then it's not going to be very clear what they're going to do. Okay, it's a position. I went there, in fact, takes, rook e8, threatening to simplify with knight e4. Maybe I should have gone h3. I went bishop d3, knight to here, bishop to here. I thought bishop f6 was about equal. In fact, he took on c3, which I thought was a bit unnecessary. It's playable, of course. So I've just played my moves. And okay, I have a disgusting queen side, but his king side's quite weak. And I thought it's a reasonable position. I didn't even think about it very much. This is a bad move. I mean, b6 might be one move to try to play bishop a6, or just get your pieces out. Just play normal chess and you'll be okay. Should have taken the rook. This is now a big attack for me. Okay, I should have apparently have gone f5. I didn't even think about it. When you think about it, f5 is going to be a terribly strong move. I did takes, and had quite a think, and then went queen h6 because I really wanted to. But I don't know, can you go bishop g6 and then queen h6? Maybe it's only a draw. Interesting. I haven't actually asked an engine that. I'm going to ask an engine whether bishop g6 is possible in this position. Yeah, it is, yeah. Bishop takes, pawn takes, and then this one. That I didn't see, to play rook f6. That's what I should have done. I went queen h6, and when I did so I said I was in the middle of a slump, as you'll see in a minute. So let's give bishop g6 in its glam. Then actually I did see that he should play e4 to stop bishop g6 and then play queen c3, because then the queen is going backwards along the c3 diagonal. It's playable for black. He went there, and it's fairly obvious, I think, what you should do. You play rook f7, deflecting the king. And now he has to go walkies, and you're checkmating him. So it didn't. I mean, going backwards, rook f1 was also completely hopeless. So, well, I said I was in the middle of a slump, and I checked, and I now played a totally ridiculous... I mean, it's mate in 3 in various ways. I think queen g5 would probably mate in... Maybe it's mate in 4, I don't know. Maybe you can go queen h6, rook f... Queen f6, rook takes queen, king g3, and it's 4 moves till it's mate. But actually then queen e3 is mate. No, it isn't. Okay, anyway, I did this. Not a move I'm proud of. And he took... And I was so annoyed I did this. Not very hard, but hard enough. And I then saw I could win his queen, so I didn't resign immediately. And I was so annoyed I didn't notice that you can actually play rook h3 check, and there, and it's perpetual check. So I won his queen. And now, of course, he must play rook f8. He went there. And I now failed to see g3 check and bishop f1 mate. As I said, this is a story against myself. And I played some stupid move, and I lost. And that's a good move. So this is a totally preposterous game. And it is something of a cautionary tale about the dangers of playing a lot of blitz games in a row, how your standard may go down a bit lower than you thought. And this was really rather awful. I mean, you know, obviously I don't care because it's one blitz game and it doesn't... I think it's very funny. I think it's incredible that you can sacrifice a rook quite soundly, lose your queen for nothing, still have perpetual check, and then mismate in 2. So it's perhaps the worst blitz game I've played for 10 years. I don't know. Anyway, I thought you might find it amusing, and as I said, a truly horrible game which should dispel any fond lingering doubts that any readers may have that grandmasters don't blunder. And it's so ridiculous that I don't find it a difficult story to tell against myself. And there we are. That's the first one. So that was involuntary reginacides. And then the next game, I've got 4 of 4 queen sacrifices. The next game is from the Dutch League. It was, I used to play for Volmac, Rotterdam. We were one of the best teams. Perhaps I think we won a league a few times. And this was against Hilversum, which was the team that had the Polgars. And I was playing Zhuja, as she was then. Nowadays she's Susan, of course, when she's in America. And Zhuja outplayed me the opening, but then I was able to give up my queen. And as I said in the column, I did resist any possible puns about sacrificing a queen against the queen and all that sort of nonsense, which obviously I could have tried to work in. But it's an interesting game because it shows that basically the queen is a wonderful piece, but she's only a wonderful piece when she has something to do. When she has nothing to attack, she can be a totally useless lump. And this was a Leningrad Dutch. Apparently you're supposed to go d5 here. I mean, I do have books on Leningrad Dutch. Not many people play it nowadays. I did this. I mean, you could even play e4 and sacrifice the exchange. What you can't do is to go e4, bishop takes rook, pawn takes knight, because then it really doesn't work. You have to sacrifice the exchange. This is just winning for white because of the horrible dark squares. But should be winning for white because of the horrible dark squares. Whereas, but if you just went bishop takes f8 and recaptured somehow, you could play this position maybe. I don't know. You've got a very decent position for the exchange. Just queen takes and just play chess, play c6, get your pieces out. And it would be, in a blitz game, it would be quite playable maybe. Anyway, I didn't do this very well. That's a good move. and suddenly I've got big problems, the d4 squares caving in. So I really didn't like my position. I thought if I moved my bishop first, yeah. If I play knight takes knight, then she'll recapture, she'll play rook d8 and the other rook to d7, and I will have every chance of losing and 0 chances of winning. So I played the move I wanted to play. When I'm in trouble, I tend just to do what I want to do. I don't really care. I just think, all right, we're going to play our move, and doesn't matter. We'll lose some material. We can fight. She played rook d8. If she goes e takes, queen takes, knight g4, e5, I don't lose the exchange. And I thought I'd have decent pins all over the place, but actually rook f5. My position's so lousy in every other way that this is apparently okay for black, according to the engine. It wasn't obvious to me. You'd think on a good day you'd have some way to do something nice, but apparently you don't. Obviously you're worried that knight f2 is going to happen in something awful, but if it doesn't, you might be okay. And I don't know. Anyway, gave this, and this must be at best equal. Black's still got the dark squares, and bishop h2 is probably something of a threat. I don't know. Maybe I can go rook d1 or something. I mean, if I can get in rook d7, I'll have a position, but it's not so clear. I was just noticing rook d1, check, king f1, bishop back, and if rook d7, I lose my pieces. So I just noticed this. I don't know if this is a bad move. It probably is. Check here, back somewhere, and this is really not a good idea because of check here and check, and I lose a piece. So it's playable for white, but not great. She decided to take my queen, which isn't an unreasonable thing to do. Now, if queen a5, bishop b2, you can't play queen takes b5 because of bishop f1 to c4. That's quite important. Means I'm still fighting. I don't know if you can go maybe something, don't know. It's not so clear to me. Anyway, she went h6 to stop my horse coming, and I took. And I've got a position. I've got one pawn, a rook and a bishop and a pawn for the queen, and my knight is out of play on h3, but nothing terrible is happening, we hope. Don't know if that's a good move. g5 Houdini, and g5 does look a good move. It threatens g4. If I move my king, then maybe I have to go king h1, but it's not very convincing. If I start going f3, then there'll be a g4 hit and sort of things happening on that diagonal. So that was a bit passive. And I got here, which is nice hit, threatens bishop c4. Now I'm starting to get my pieces out to decent squares. I think bishop takes knight is actually a mistake. I thought I was getting control of the position, but I missed that. I went there first, did I? Okay. Now I took. And she should have gone queen e2, which wasn't at all obvious to me. And g5, and she gets the initiative. And was good for black. Okay. I mean, look, it's a game and we're playing moves. That's a nice move. Now my knight is starting to get round. And although, again, it's still only a queen for a rook and a pawn, she has fixed weaknesses, and I have one more lump to attack her with. So I started moving my guys around. I don't know if g5 was a very good move. And I was happy to swap the bishops, because then she'd have a lot of weaknesses. And so now I start moving my knight around again. I've got a lot of time because there's nothing very much black can do. I don't know if she can try to go queen to b5 to a5, but I'll still have rook c2. I'm very, very secure now. That h5 doesn't look great to me. That's teeing up to play. So is queen queen d3, rook d1, queen c3, yeah. Queen takes pawn with check f3, you simply win material there, I think. Is that true? Could be true. Let's see. I'm wondering about check. Stop it, and oh great engine. Queen takes pawn with check, f3, queen g6, rook to there, check. I was thinking you could maybe go queen somewhere, but actually there's nowhere, is there? No. And so, yeah, that's just going to be losing. Okay. This happened, and rook to d1, I've got the file. I don't know if bishop e7 was a very good idea. And I've just got a beautiful position, I've got control. And as we said, a queen is a really useful piece when she's got things to attack. When she doesn't, she's nothing very much. So now I'm getting my horse. That's a bit desperate. Right, this is where she made the absolutely fatal error. She had to take on g4. It's clearly better for white now. But when she goes to h4, it's all very splendid, but that leaves her pawns completely dead, and it leaves my pawn on g4 defended, which means that my knight doesn't have a duty to defend that pawn, and she's now actually completely lost. I think the engine, if I ask an engine now, it starts saying slight advantage, and then it goes to plus minus. This is Houdini in about a second. And, well, what I did was I just started to move my horse around. I mean, okay, don't know if she should go queen takes pawn. If she doesn't, I'll just play rook takes e5 anyway. She shouldn't, I mean, she should leave the pawn on b3, but it's not going to help much. I'm just going to make jolly sure that if she takes on b3, I can take an a5. Actually, she resigned here, because I'm going to play rook f5, I'm going to take a pawn, I'm going to fiddle around, I'm going to win her h4 pawn as well. Then I'm going to have rook, knight and 4 pawns against a queen, and then I'm going to start advancing. I can put my king on g3 with a pawn on e5, knight on f3, and there are no checks at all. And there will be a moment when black will probably get 1 check or 2 checks, but it's obviously completely hopeless. So this was a game where I started badly. I employed the last refuge of a scoundrel by sacrificing, or a chess-playing scoundrel by sacrificing my queen. She missed some chances to activate her queen. I mean, against an engine it wouldn't have gone well, obviously, we know that. And eventually I got control, and once I had control, then my knight and my rook were much better than her queen, because the queen had nothing to attack, or nothing suitable to attack. And it was a nightmare for her, really. I mean, you know, here everything drops off, and then white puts the rook on f5, and then white plays king g3 and h4 and h5, and then white starts thinking a little bit, and you know, maybe black will get 2 checks or something, and we'll have to be a little bit careful. Maybe we'll put the knight in g2 and play f3, I don't know. Still won't be any checks, and eventually we'll win. So a perfectly reasonable position to resign. Okay, that's this one, and then I've got 2 more. I've got 2 recent examples from the Magnus Carlsen Invitational Tournament, where Ding Liren, where his opponents sacrificed their queens for really not enough. Sorry, he had the queen, yeah, in both cases. And one of them, Ali Reja Firuja, drew, and actually Ding was under pressure by the end. And the other, he managed to beat Fabiana Caruana. And I said at the intro to this one, I read some computer notes, and they really annoyed me, because they said things like, that's a bad move. And it was nothing to do with the actual game. Yes, it's true that with a computer which can analyse perfectly, attacking with a queen and a rook against 2 rooks, you can often give checkmate. But as a person, when there are space invaders landing, and there were passed pawns very close to touchdown, then it's extremely difficult to keep control, and it's much more likely that something will go wrong. So this is a funny system. I faced it, I didn't say in these notes, against Paco Vallejo in a blitz game when we were playing one of the London clubs for qualification to the American League. And the blitz I played fine, the 3+2, that was lovely. But when we went to a blast about 10+3 or 7+3 or something, I couldn't do it. I couldn't change speed. Anyway, Paco played this and completely slaughtered me. And the point of this very odd system is just to stop c4. So Ding plays it anyway. And okay, you got it. I mean, the engine says something about what about bishop e7, but I mean, the whole point of this system is to play c4, so stop c4, so of course you take it. So apparently there'd been some game with knight f1, knight a4 and things. Cherniaev, Ivan Sokolov. I stuck in these notes. But Ding just took it, and it's really dangerous position. But queen d4, I think you just started losing pieces. For instance, this is one where you can lose some pieces. And bishop d4, presumably. You played something like knight f3 and it's all horrible. I suppose I should have given that. Let's just stick bishop d4, stick a variation in. I can't be bothered to work it out myself. Knight df3, c5 is being given. Bishop h5, you just go g4 and you win a large number of lumps. And c5, something awful happens. You go takes, and probably bishop a3 or something. And you are aimed, and you're about to fire. And this is horrible. Okay, I should have put this in. Anyway, what happened was they got to this position. You can't go bishop b4 really, because knight c5. Knight bd7 is possible. I mean, the engine kept on saying things like this is a better move, and when you looked for 30 seconds it wasn't even true. Okay, so Ding has got a wonderful position, and the question really is how to get a clear advantage. You don't need to get a winning position. What you do need to do against one of the world's trickiest players is to avoid him starting to kick you. And bishop g5 is okay. Queen c2, knight a4. There's some strange lines like this, but that actually isn't too difficult a line. And here you're only going to get a rook for the queen, which is really not enough. So you can see it's just a question of choosing a line. What happened is that Ding chose a fairly sensible line. Bishop g5 isn't stupid at all. Queen a3. h6 would perhaps have set more practical problems. What do I say here? Here. And now the engine wants to go e5, and this is all really complicated. I can well believe it's very, very good for white, but, you know, it's hard to tell in a game. What happened was this. Bishop b4, knight c5, takes, h4. This one's really bad for black because he just hasn't got anything. So Alireza hacked. h4, I think just queen c takes queen c2. If you're going to have to allow rook takes c3. It's just going to be a much better position for white for absolutely nothing, you know. And this would have been what you want is simplicity, especially against Alireza Firouzja, and this way you're getting simplicity. So it's what he should have done, really, I think. He played okay, but I mean, this is all very splendid. He has won the queen, but you know, you can see you're going to get some pawns, and at the moment it's rook and piece. I can see he probably just thought it was going to be over. I don't know if d5 even might be a move here, just to try to keep control. That's a very good move, and that's a very good move. And you look at this position and you see at the moment it's a rook, but you know, the passed pawns are coming, and all these lines. This is the actual game. I think takes an f7 was more practical, even if takes an h7 is winning. They got to this position. So, let's stop here and think. So white has got a rook, a queen and a rook and a bishop against two rooks and a knight. So he has a queen for a rook up. And if we do a baby count, then the pawns, white has 5, including a dead end on h7, black has 6. So in material terms, black is completely lost. But he's got these massive passed pawns, and in a practical rapid play game, it's not going to be that easy to avoid something bad happening. You're going to have to at some point probably allow black to queen and start attacking. So he played fine to start with. Queen to there doesn't threaten queen takes knight, but I mean rook fd8, you still go bishop f1, and then you're going to be threatening. Knight b2, do I say knight b6 given? I don't know why I didn't give rook f to d8, but then you play bishop d3 clearly anyway. Bishop f1 anyway to go to threaten to go to d3, or to defend against d3. Okay, so this happened, and I mean I'm not sure if the best moves have been played. Now at this point, this is the move I really don't like by Ding, is bishop d3. It does two bad things. It allows knight takes bishop, after which there's not a minor piece to give up for that pawn, and it means that pawn equals queen on c1 will be check. And here I think you should have found queen c1. It's not trivial. c2, queen h6. So pawn equals queen is pretty trivial, really. You don't go rook f7 because of queen g5. Sorry, queen h6. That probably is winning, but you just do it this way. And that's the end of the game. And it's not that difficult, this. I mean, this is something that he could have seen. I know he's been playing at the early hours of the morning. And there's another line as well. Queen to there, c2, queen to there, f5, queen checks, takes, f4. And this also isn't difficult. So I do think that this he should have really have found, and that this would have been a reasonable line for white to find. After he played bishop d3, he may well be winning, but in practice it's really difficult. Because I said bishop d3's done two bad things. Ding just played moves. I think the engine still says, oh, king g2 is okay, but I mean, apparently works. And see if king g7, rook back. Okay. I just don't know. It's not obvious to me now in practice what's going on. The engine doesn't like f5, but it's a great move because it causes total confusion. I mean, it says, "Oh, I'm winning," and I'm sure it's true. You know, anything it says is going to be true, but it doesn't matter because it's too complicated. In a game, it's really, really hard to tell whether pawn equals queen is going to be a problem or not. I can see you can go rook checks and queen h6, and maybe you're mating. Okay, maybe you are mating, but it's not something that a person finds easy to calculate. Maybe you can go rook checks and rook takes pawn and queen checks and some scam where you mate as well, but you don't know. I mean, it's saying plus minus. It's saying mate in 11 here. So, you know, the engine, I'm sure, is correct. I'm absolutely certain of that. It's basically saying pawn equals queen, check, king. Do I give this line? I should do if I don't. So it goes pawn equals queen is obviously the main line. Check, king here, check, king here, queen here. And if rook d7, there'll be rook h8 mate, and if rook c7, you can go rook h8 and rook takes d8. So you are giving mate. Okay, great. I mean, you then wonder, is king f7 remotely a chance? And presumably not. So, you know, it works, but it's not easy to do. It's already... Apparently f4 was a good move here. fe4 is wrong. Takes. So the engine says question mark, rook h3, e3, queen d1, pawn takes pawn, queen a4 is winning for white. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. But I don't care because it's not a line that I can calculate very easily. I mean, it goes rook c7, queen a5, and I think you are getting queen e5. But seeing that in the game, seeing that queen a4 is actually going to win, is unbelievably difficult. I mean, because you're tense, you don't know, you could easily lose. Say you can go rook c7, queen a5, and you could go rook d8 to e7, which obviously is illegal, then probably black would just be winning because he goes c2 and c1, and queen all the space invaders. So it's just not possible to see in a game. So actually went g takes, and then he gave perpetual check. And there we are. Fine defence by the erasure. Just doing this stuff, saying, okay, I've lost my queen, now I'm going to fight. And now we're going to see what happens. The other one, there's a fourth one, is against Fabiano Caruana. And this one, I'm not going to worry about the opening. We'll get to the critical position. Okay, they're doing all this stuff, which they tend to go... They don't castle here now. They play 95. It's supposed to be better. Tony Miles first did this against Ulf Anderson, I think, many years ago. Okay. So there's some sort of scam that you're going to play e4, are you, of 95, I presume. Clearly white is trying to do stuff, and now the black queen is out here. And he played g5, d8. And now Ding found the excellent move f5. It's a really great move, even if it's a bad move, it's a good move. To try to trap the queen. And in fact knight f5 is better. And there's some funny stuff. Rook to there, d4. So now you've got to move your knight. If you go knight e4, then rook c2 is winning for black. Everything collapses. But you play knight d5 here. Sorry, knight d5 exclam. Takes here. And apparently white's only move not to lose now is queen b4, because the rook is terrible on h4. It's all a complete mess. And apparently this should lead to a draw. I mean, I can well believe it. You've got queen e7 happening, you've got queen a4 happening. And I don't think that actually queen b4 is that hard a move, because you just look at this position, it's such a disaster for you in every other way that you look for a way to get counterplay and get your queen given check. And you hope you'll be okay. Alright. He actually went g takes, rook to there, d4, which is also very clever. Knight b1, queen takes. So at the moment, black has a rook for the queen, but the knight in b1 is pretty awful. The rook in g3 isn't great, and there are a lot of rooks in the centre. He went there and took. Rook a3 is an excellent move, saying, okay, I'm giving back the exchange, but if you take it, then I'm going to have a proper position. He didn't take it. Okay. Right. If knight c4, queen to there, takes, d3's. You shouldn't play queen e5 check too early, because then the rook has c1. And this apparently is winning for white. I mean, it looks like it should be, but I've been nervous. I've had bad experiences against passed pawns and lots of rooks in the past, and I'd be a bit nervous, but in fact it's good. One line goes here, king g6. Now you can't play bishop e2 now, because a rook takes a3 and rook c2. That's the point of king g6. One point of king g6 is that queen e5 is then not check. Am I just talking rubbish anyway? He goes here anyway. And now this is winning for white. So, yeah, I think I had a hallucination that the queen on e5 would be attacking c2. Oh, I see. No, the point is that here, in this one, you don't have queen e5 check. If the rook wasn't on c5, you'd have queen e5 check here. So that's why you can't play bishop e2 at once. Okay. And the game's over. Okay, well this is very good idea to return some material to attack. And it's still got very hairy actually. He went there, takes, knight g4, knight a3, and he took. Caruana just did the stuff he had to do. I don't know if d3 is a possible move as well. I guess you can probably play... Is d3 here? I'm not sure if I asked that question. d3, e4. He doesn't want to go knight takes bishop, he just wants to go e4 now, does he? So knight takes bishop, rook c2 is given as unclear, is it? Knight takes bishop, rook c2, queen d3 is actually a draw. So I didn't realise that. Queen d3, do you go, it doesn't matter if you take probably. Take, and you have check and knight e3. Check here, knight e3, king f2, knight f1, knight d6, and apparently this is... Oh, have I got this completely wrong? I had to go h3, did I, to stop the horse coming out? I see. D6 question mark. Knight takes h2. I'm going to send a revised PGN, obviously, to chess space after this. Because one thing that does happen when I look at these is that I get more ideas. So d3, but the engine says either e3 or e4 it likes. And it still thinks that this is winning. I'm wondering what you're doing after knight e3. I suppose you're going... Are you going e takes f5, are you? This is a mess, actually. This would not have been that clear either. So... looking again on video, d3 was also interesting. Okay, and we'll, sorry, Control R, excuse me. Okay, I've got Ooking again. Ooking is not Ooking or Ooling. Ooking is what the orangutan does in whatever it's called, the Terry Pratchett book, isn't it? Which one is he? The librarian of Unseen University, if people know what I'm talking about. H3 exclam. D3 takes. Okay, so now he's got a rook and a knight for the queen, and it's still a bit unclear because it's such a mess. Knight b1's a good move, I think. Rook c2, presumably you can play queen e3, d2, queen e5 check, and you're going to be first. That is the claim, anyway. You're going to take on d2, and then you're going to play some mating attack. It's going to be mate, yeah. It's bound to be. Okay, so still very tense, this. I don't know, was f4 then queen e4, presumably queen f5? So it actually ended up being one tempo either way. Rook d6 stops mates, bishop d5 is a good move. Finally white is attacking. Rook h1 doesn't do anything, so he rotates bishop, gets mated. Of course the bishop takes rook. I should have put bishop takes rook, two question marks. Rook h1 check. King f7 check. Still can't take the rook because of rook h1 check, and he resigned because now finally you can take the guy. As I said, it turns out that a queen is worth more than a bundle of rags once she starts giving check. And that's the point, that the queen, until she's forking or she's giving check, is worth little more than a... But as soon as she starts attacking, she's a magnificent unit. And here we are. So I've enjoyed doing these games. They're really interesting games. And the basic thing is that once you can attack with a queen, then she can give mate, and however many pieces you have, it may not matter. But until she can do something, she can be totally useless. Right, so I'm going to do something different next time, and please write in if you like. You don't have to send games even, just with suggestions as what to do in a fortnight. I have been sent some more Agony games recently, so I'll have a look at those and see. Maybe we'll revert to Agony for a week or for that fortnight. But otherwise, any ideas, please tell me. And if your idea is adopted, as for the column, then I would have thought the chess base would be able to give you a premium account for 3 months, like they have been when you sent in games. So if you send in a good idea, I mean, I'm saying this off the top of my head, and it's possible that Johannes will say that I'm a bad man for giving away his premium accounts, but I don't think he will. I think he will think this is a good idea as well. Okay, right, I've enjoyed doing this. I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and see you in a fortnight.